Me, I am Elena, and for years I paid every bill, every medical expense, every holiday dinner, quietly thinking that love meant sacrifice. My hands trembled as I balanced checkbooks late at night, believing each payment stitched my family closer, only to realize I was sewing my own invisibility. But one afternoon I came home with my husband and son and found our things dumped on the porch like garbage. They said, "We voted. You're out." The same family I fed, clothed, carried, erased me like I was never part of it. But what they didn't know is that I kept every receipt, every transfer, every lie, tucked away like armor I didn't yet know I need. So before we begin, tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are? And have you ever felt like the outsider in your own family? I read everyone. The house was already humming when I parked along the curb, the familiar glow of my parents' colonial home in Easton, Maryland casting a deceptive warmth. From the sidewalk, I could see warm light spilling from the dining room windows, silhouettes moving back and forth, their laughter a distant echo of a family I thought I belonged to. I hesitated, fingers resting on the door handle, my heart heavy with the weight of past slight. In the back seat, Liam's head tilted against his booster, his small frame curled protectively around the toy robot he brought everywhere, his soft snores a reminder of the innocence I was fighting to preserve. I didn't want to wake him. I also didn't want to walk in without him, his presence my shield against their indifference. I shook his gently, my voice soft but strained. "Hey, bud. We're here." He blinked, rubbing his eyes, his voice sleepy but hopeful. "Are they making cake?" I smiled, though the ache in my chest tightened, knowing the answer was likely no. "Maybe," I said, brushing his hair back. We stepped onto the porch together, the crisp autumn air biting at my cheeks. I balanced the casserole dish in one hand, adjusted the strap on my bag with the other, its weight a metaphor for the burdens I carried. My husband, Nathan, had offered to come, but I told him to rest, his exhaustion from double shifts at the factory a silent sacrifice I couldn't ignore. I figured, naively, that bringing Liam might soften the edges of my family's sharp indifference. Margaret, my mother, opened the door before we knocked, her posture rigid, her smile a practiced mask. "Elena," she said, voice just polite enough to pass as welcoming, but cold enough to remind me of my place. "You're 10 minutes late." "I brought the garlic casserole you like," I replied, holding up the dish, hoping for a flicker of warmth. She didn't acknowledge the dish, her eyes dropping to Liam, then flicking past us toward the street, as if checking for witnesses. "Shoes off at the entry," she said curtly, turning away. "Why is Grandma always so serious?" Liam whispered, his small hand tugging at mine as we stepped inside. "She's just got a lot on her mind," I said, forcing a smile, though the truth gnawed at me. There had no room for us in that mind. Inside, the smell of baked lasagna and lemon cleaner clung to the air, a sterile perfection that matched the house's polished exterior. The dining room table gleamed, 6 places set with polished silverware and napkins folded like fans, each a testament to Margaret's need for control. I scanned the table twice, my heart sinking. No seat for Liam, not even a stool from the kitchen. "I guess he can sit with me," I said gently, my voice betraying a tremor I hoped no one noticed. I placed my casserole down and pulled my chair back, lifting Liam into my lap, his small body warm against mine. Cecilia, my older sister, glanced up from her phone, her perfectly manicured nails pausing mid-stroll. "You're going to let him eat off your plate? That's charming," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "I'll make it work," I replied, keeping my voice steady, though her words stung like a slap. Dinner began the way all our dinners did. Stiff smiles, clinks of silverware, conversation about safe things, weather, community events, the price of gas. I sipped water and tried to keep my breathing even, my arm around Liam to steady us both. Liam reached for lasagna with his tiny fork, knocking over a breadstick, the small clatter echoing in the tense silence. No one offered a napkin, their eyes sliding past us as if we were invisible. "Careful," Margaret's cutting to me, as if I'd failed some unspoken test. Midway through the meal, Cecilia stood, holding a cream envelope, her smile calculated and triumphant. "Mom, here's a little something from my bonus," she said, her voice saccharine. "Thought you could use it." Margaret took it with both hands, eyes glowing with pride. "You're so thoughtful. Always have been." I chewed slower, my jaw tight. Just 4 days ago, I had wired Mom $2,500, 0 cents through the bank app. She'd called, crying about a leaking roof and her rising heating bill, her voice trembling with practiced desperation. She hadn't said thank you, not once. My name had been right there on the transfer receipt, but they didn't see it, or pretended not to. I said nothing, swallowing the hurt like I always did. The conversation drifted, and Margaret gestured at the casserole, her lips curling slightly. "Is this yours, Elena?" I nodded. "She still can't boil pasta." "Bless her heart," she said loud enough for the whole table, her tone laced with mockery. Cecilia's laugh came too fast, sharp and cutting. Even my father, usually silent, chuckled, his eyes avoiding mine. Liam looked up, brows furrowed, his small voice piercing the tension. "But I like it." I touched his shoulder, my smile pinned like a badge, though my heart was fracturing. "That's okay, baby. I'll try better next time," I said, steady, though inside, something unspooled, slow and acidic, a quiet rage taking root. Later, during dessert, Cecilia sent a message to someone, her phone screen lighting up as she scrawled past me toward the kitchen. I caught a glimpse of it, the words searing into my memory. "She's really still trying, huh? Pathetic." "Who's pathetic?" Liam asked, his voice innocent but curious, catching me off guard. "No one, sweetheart," I said quickly, forcing a smile, but the acid in my chest burned hotter. "Why do they always laugh at you, Mommy?" Liam pressed, his eyes searching mine, the question a knife in my heart. "They're just joking," I lied, my voice trembling, knowing he saw through it but unable to bear the truth. That night, after I tucked Lim into his bed back home and washed the dishes with robotic hands, the clatter of plates echoing my fracturing composure, I sat at the kitchen table, the same table I'd bought for our apartment, paid for with freelance graphic design gigs and stretched paychecks. I stared at the leftover casserole in its Tupperware, still good, still untouched, a symbol of my family's disregard, its congealed surface mocking my effort. That night, I stared at my son's empty plate, and I finally understood. I wasn't just overlooked, I was erased. I didn't sleep much, the image of Cecilia's text looping in my mind, her smug words a knife twisting in my chest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Liam sitting on my lap with no plate of his own, his small face confused by their laughter. I saw Cecilia's message, that smug little jab pretending to be private, and the look on my son's face when he realized people were laughing at me, his innocence tainted by their cruelty. Friday afternoon came with a faint breeze and a clear sky, what people in Maryland like to call a perfect autumn day. Nathan had suggested a last-minute weekend trip, just to get out of the house, he said, his voice gentle but strained, sensing my unraveling. I agreed, mostly to give Liam something different. Even if it was just a modest Airbnb in Annapolis with a playground nearby, its creaky swings a small escape from our reality. On the way back, Liam sat in the back seat, humming to himself, holding a wrinkled drawing he made that morning. A bright sun over a house he imagined for us. "I'm going to show Grandma," he beamed, his voice full of hope. "She'll love the colors." I smiled at him through the rearview mirror, my heart aching at his optimism. "She'll like it, baby. You worked hard." Nathan reached for my hand across the console and squeezed it once, a silent gesture that felt hollow after years of his quiet complicity. He didn't say much on the drive. He rarely did after family dinners like that. I think the silence was his way of coping, avoiding the confrontation he knew was brewing. As we turned onto my parents' street, I glanced up from my phone and felt my stomach tighten, a cold dread settling in. There, sitting squarely on the porch, was a line of our things, suitcases, plastic garbage bags sagging at the corners, a box with my old laptop and chargers, its edges dented from careless handling. Liam's toy basket was half open, a stuffed lion poking out like it was trying to escape, a sight that twisted my heart. Liam squinted, his voice small. "Mom, is that our stuff?" I didn't answer, my throat too tight to speak. I parked slowly, stepped out, my legs stiff and heavy, as if moving through molasses. I walked up to the porch, heart hammering, and knocked twice, the sound sharp against the quiet street. The door creaked open just an inch, revealing Margaret's face through the small slit, her expression unreadable, neither angry nor warm, just resolute. "It's time you stood on your own, Elena," she said calmly, as if reciting something from a script, her voice devoid of emotion. "We did not," I said, blinking, my voice cracking with disbelief. "We talked about this." Behind her, Cecilia appeared, arms crossed over her chest, her silk blouse pristine, her smile cold and calculated. "You've been here too long. It's not personal. We voted." My voice trembled, rage and hurt colliding. "You what?" "Morty said it was time," she continued, her tone clinical, as if discussing a business decision. "We have to prioritize stability." "Stability?" I laughed once, hollow, the sound bitter in my throat. "You mean your comfort?" Margaret shut the door a little more, her eyes narrowing. "Please don't make this harder." "Harder?" I snapped, my voice rising despite myself. "You threw our lives on the porch like trash, and you're worried about harder." Then it clicked. My phone buzzed, and I pulled it out, hands shaking, the screen blurring through my tears. A message from my cousin Leela appeared, a screenshot attached from a family group chat I'd never been in. "We all agree. Elena has to go. Don't drag it out. She's had long enough. She's not even pulling her weight. It's sad as Scalia. I'll handle it. Just act normal around her." I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, each word a dagger. Nathan stood beside me now, reading over my shoulder, his thoughts tightening. "They planned this?" he asked quietly, his voice laced with disbelief. "No," I whispered, my voice breaking. "They executed it." Behind us, Liam clutched his drawing, eyes wide, his small voice trembling. "Did I do something bad?" I bent down, wiping at my face, forcing my voice to steady for his sake. "No, sweetheart, not you." He looked back at the porch, his lip quivering. "Why won't they let us in?" I couldn't answer that one, the truth too raw to voice. We loaded what we could into the car, the stuffed lion falling onto the gravel, its button eyes staring up at me accusingly. The rest we'd come back for, though the thought of returning made my stomach churn. I didn't cry until later, until we pulled into a rundown motel by a gas station on the outskirts of Baltimore, its neon sign flickering like a dying star, and room smelled like lemon air freshener and something older, like mildew under the surface. Liam curled up on the bed beside me, already drifting off, his small body seeking safety. Nathan sat in the corner, scrolling his phone, silent, his avoidance a wall between us. I opened the family group chat, scrolling past every name that had once called me niece, cousin, daughter. Names that now felt like lies. I read each message again, letting them sear into me, a catalog of betrayal. Then I deleted it, my finger hovering over the button before pressing down, a small act of severance. "Or, why didn't you tell me they were planning this?" I asked Nathan, my voice low, the hurt spilling over. He looked up, startled, his phone screen dimming. "I didn't know, Elena. I swear. You knew they didn't want us," I said, my tone flat, the accusation hanging between us. "You just didn't want to see it." He didn't respond, his silence a confirmation, and I turned away, the distance between us growing. Later that night, I looked at my sleeping son in the motel bed beside me, his small hand clutching the edge of the blanket, and knew I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I didn't sleep much, the motel's flat pillows and dry air amplifying the chaos in my mind, the hum of the air conditioner a mocking echo of my family's indifference. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Liam's lion on the gravel, Cecilia's smug smile, and Margaret's cold dismissal, their faces a carousel of rejection. The room smelled faintly of bleach and old coffee, a sterile reminder of our displacement. I slid out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Liam, and pulled on jeans and a sweatshirt, the front born but familiar. Downstairs, the front desk clerk, a weary man with graying hair, told me about a diner 3 blocks away, its neon sign a beacon in the dawn. I texted my friend Sophie, asking if Liam could nap a while longer at her place, needing space to think. She replied instantly, "Of course. Take all the time you need," her kindness a small lifeline. At the cafe, I chose a seat by the window, the courthouse looming across the street, its heavy stone facade more familiar than I wanted to admit from years of paying family fines and fees. I stirred cream into my coffee with a shaky hand, the clink of the spoon a metronome to my thoughts. Nathan walked in 15 minutes late, looking like he'd just rolled out of his own regret, his hair damp from a rushed shower. He said as he sat down, not quite meeting my eyes, his discomfort palpable. I didn't waste time, my voice low but sharp. "Do you think they ever respected me?" He blinked, caught off guard, his coffee cup pausing mid-air. "What?" "My family, your family, everyone. Do you think they ever respected me?" I pressed, my eyes locked on his. He exhaled slowly, eyes drifting to the window, avoiding the question. "They're old-fashioned, Elena. They have expectations. You know how your mom is." "I'm not asking what they meant," I interrupted, my voice cutting through his deflection. "I'm asking what you think." There was a pause, long enough to hear the soft clink of plates behind the counter. He sipped his coffee and finally said. The words landed like a betrayal, dismissing years of my silent sacrifices. "Like it was a misplaced grudge," I said, my tone icy. "Like the years I spent babysitting other people's kids while raising my own, cooking for a table that only ever rolled their eyes at my food, wiring money behind closed doors while someone else took the bow meant nothing." He reached across the table, resting his hand on mine, a gesture that felt patronizing. "I'm not trying to take sides here. Maybe it's just time we focus on us." I pulled my hand away, my voice steady but cold. "Funny, you've been focusing on them this whole time." His jaw clenched, but he didn't deny it, his silence a confirmation of his complicity. A flash of memory came back. Last Christmas, Cecilia had laughed in front of everyone when she found out I was doing yoga tutorials online. "Oh, wow, a content creator now. What's next, selling essential oils?" She'd mocked, her voice dripping the dessert tray, her silence louder than any rebuke. Nathan had patted my leg under the table that night, a silent apology I never asked for. A meaningless gesture. A band-aid on a cracked foundation. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. He blinked, startled. "Where are you going?" "To stop asking people to choose me," I said, grabbing my coat, my voice low and even, a quiet declaration of independence. Outside, the cold air bit at my cheeks, but I didn't care. I crossed the street slowly, stopping at the steps of the courthouse, its gray stone columns looming like sentinels. I didn't go in. I wasn't ready, not yet. But I stood there, hands buried deep in my pockets, staring at those columns. For years, I'd waited for a letter, a text, a crumb of recognition, hoping my family would see my worth. But standing there, wind tugging at my coat, I realized something simple and awful. I wasn't waiting for them. I was waiting for me. Waiting to give myself permission to stop explaining, to stop shrinking, stop accepting less than the bare minimum. I turned and walked back toward the motel, my resolve hardening with each step. My phone buzzed, but I didn't check it. Not yet. I already knew the kind of message it would be. Another jab cloaked in concern. Another attempt to pull me back into their orbit. "You're throwing away family," Nathan had said as I left the cafe, his voice trailing after me, a last attempt to tether me to their world. "They threw me away first," I replied over my shoulder, not looking back, the words a line drawn in the sand. I'd barely slept the night before, my eyes scanning that message 100 times, the sting of my name spelled wrong under a community award I hadn't even known was being given. Not the mistake itself, but the truth underneath it. I was being replaced, name by name, deed by deed. The motel room felt smaller, its peeling wallpaper and stale air a mirror to my shrinking world, the flickering fluorescent light casting shadows that danced like my doubt. A few days passed, and I kept busy, mostly for Liam, his bright eyes a reminder to keep moving forward. We stayed at the motel, then with my friend Abigail for a couple of nights, her cozy apartment a temporary refuge, its warm lights and soft blankets a stark contrast to the motel's cold sterility. She offered her sofa and gentle smiles, and I took both, pretending I didn't see the pity behind her eyes, her kindness a soft bandage on a wound too deep to heal quickly. Then the invitation came. Cecilia texted me, her message as cold as ever. Noah's class is having a library dedication this Wednesday. He'll be on stage. Thought Liam might like it. There was no hope to see you, no warmth, just obligation wrapped in formality, a perfunctory gesture to maintain appearances. I wasn't planning to go, the thought of facing them again twisting my stomach, but when Liam overheard and clutched my arm, eyes wide with excitement, I knew I couldn't say no. "Can we go, Mom, please?" he begged, his voice full of a hope I couldn't bear to crush. "Of course, buddy," I said, forcing a smile, though my heart sank. So, Wednesday afternoon, I packed his sketch pad and snacks into my purse, the weight of the bag a reminder of the burdens I carried alone. I brought a small, wrapped book for Noah, Charlotte's Web, one of Liam's favorites, hoping the gesture might bridge the gap, however briefly. We slipped into seats in the back row of the school auditorium, the hum of proud parents bouncing off the polished floors and vibrant bulletin boards, their chatter a stark contrast to my quiet dread. I sat silently, palms damp, Liam's small hand warm in mine. Cecilia stood up front, sleek and charcoal gray, smiling like she belonged to another world entirely, her presence commanding the room. And then it happened. The principal stepped up to the microphone and cleared his throat. "Before we begin, we'd like to thank a generous sponsor who made our new library possible. A heartfelt thank you to Mrs. Cecilia Walton." Applause erupted, a wave of approval that drowned out my thoughts. Even Liam clapped before glancing up at me, puzzled. "But, Mommy, wasn't that from your business?" he whispered, his voice small but piercing. I didn't answer at first, my hands clapping slowly, politely, like they didn't feel like they were burning. Then I leaned over and whispered, "Sometimes when you give too much, people forget who gave it." He tilted his head, his brow furrowing. "That's not fair." "No, it wasn't," I said, my voice barely audible, the truth settling like a stone in my chest. Cecilia caught my eye, her gaze locking onto mine. She didn't look away. In fact, she smiled, tight and knowing, and gave the slightest shrug, as if daring me to ruin the moment. I didn't. I stayed for the ceremony, Liam beaming when Noah read 2 lines on stage, his pride a small light in the darkness of my humiliation. I smiled too, like a well-trained extra in someone else's play, my face a mask of composure. Afterward, I didn't go up to the family cluster, their laughter and congratulations a wall I couldn't breach. I walked straight outside and sat on a bench under a tree near the parking lot, the autumn breeze rustling Liam's sketchpad as he drew a robot, oblivious to my turmoil. Later that evening, my friend Grace called, her voice a lifeline through the fog. We hadn't spoken in a few weeks, but she had a way of sensing things, even through silence. "You sound tired," she said after I gave her the bare-bones version of the event, my voice flat to hide the hurt. "I am," I admitted, "but not the kind you fix with sleep." She waited, her silence a gentle invitation. "I made the donation from the family account," I said, my voice cracking. "I didn't even put my name on it because I thought maybe if the results spoke for themselves." But she took the credit. She always does. Grace was quiet, then spoke with a precision that cut through my fog. "Elena, you've been hoping they'd become someone they never promised to be. You're not invisible because they can't see you. You're invisible because you keep walking behind them." I stared out at the dim park beyond the motel, the phone warm in my hand, her words a mirror I couldn't look away from. I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because I'd already cried too much for people who didn't blink. "You're allowed to stop following them," Grace added, her voice soft but firm. "They're not going anywhere different." I whispered a thank you, and promised to call again soon, her words lingering like a seed planted in fertile ground. Then I sat still for a long time, long after the call ended, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger, not anymore, but space. A new kind of room clearing in my chest, not for revenge, but for air. I didn't need their thanks. I just needed to stop giving mine away to people who wouldn't even remember. "You're letting them win by staying quiet," Sophie had texted earlier, her words a challenge I couldn't ignore. "Speak, Elena. They're counting on your silence." That night, back in the motel, I walked past the vending machines, their fluorescent glow casting harsh shadows, past the front desk with its tired clerk, and back to our little room. Liam was curled up already, limbs flung wide like only kids can sleep, his stuffed lions tucked under his arm. I tugged the blanket under his chin and sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress creaking under my weight, and that's when I noticed it. An envelope slipped under the door, plain white, no name, just folded once with a small smudge of blue ink in the corner. Inside were two $30.00 bills and a note that nearly broke me. Hope this helps you get back on your feet. No hard feelings. My chest tightened. The insult not in the money, but in its smallness, a dismissive gesture that mocked years of my sacrifices. I had transferred 5 times that amount to her in April alone for utility shortfalls, for medicine not covered, and before that, rent, groceries, back-to-school shopping for a niece whose backpack I picked out myself. The note wasn't generosity. It was a final erasure, a declaration that my contributions were worthless. No hard feelings? I whispered to the empty room, my voice trembling with quiet fury. I folded the envelope and slid it into the drawer beneath the Gideon Bible, a place for things too painful to keep visible. That evening, Nathan suggested we go to dinner at my cousin Julia's, who always played both sides, but claimed to stay neutral. It might help you reconnect, he said, his voice tentative, as if sensing the storm brewing inside me. Show them you're not giving up. I didn't have the energy to remind him that I was the one who'd never walked away, but I said yes. Not for me, but for Liam. He wore a shirt with tiny rocket prints and held a coloring page he'd made for his cousin Emma, his excitement a small light in my darkness. Can I give it to her when we get there? He asked from the back seat, his voice bright with hope. Of course, sweetheart, I said, brushing a crumb off my jeans, having changed 3 times before settling on something clean but unassuming, wary of drawing attention. When we arrived, Julia's house buzzed with the usual crowd, overdressed for a weeknight, wine already flowing, someone laughing too loud in the kitchen. Nathan gave my hand a light squeeze as we stepped in, but the gesture felt hollow, a reflex rather than reassurance. Then I saw the table, long, beautifully set, a place card at every spot. Emma's name, Julia's fiancé Margaret's, even though she hadn't RSVP'd, but no Elena, no Nathan, and certainly no high chair for Liam. Maybe Julia's husband saw us hovering and offered, his tone apologetic but dismissive. We didn't know you were coming, but there's a bar stool in the kitchen if that's okay. I nodded, even smiled, said, no worries at all, though my throat had gone dry, the familiar sting of exclusion burning anew. We took the bar stool, just one. Nathan standing behind me, Liam perched on my lap, eating bites from my plate with the kind of quiet patience that made me ache. Emma opened Liam's drawing, gave a polite thank you, and turned back to her tablet, her indifference a mirror of the family's. The salad passed hands, the wine refilled, and at one point someone said, so lucky to have Cecilia. She's always there when you need her. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood, the praise for her a direct erasure of me. If you've ever felt like background music in someone else's celebration, I whispered to no one, the words a quiet rebellion against the pain, you know what that seat meant? Julia caught my eye from across the room, her smile faltering for a moment as if sensing my unrest. Elena, you okay over there? She called, her voice overly cheerful, drawing unwanted attention. Just fine, I replied, my tone clipped, refusing to give her the satisfaction of a crack in my facade. Kneel to my motel, I sat in the bathroom with the fan running, knees pulled to my chest, the hum drowning out my thought. Nathan leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his expression a mix of concern and frustration. You okay? I stared at the tile, my voice low and raw. Maybe they're right. Maybe I was just a placeholder. He sighed, his tone weary. You worry too much. That was the thing. I did worry. About keeping the peace, about being good, about showing up even when they hoped I wouldn't. I stood, brushed off my legs, and looked at myself in the mirror, my reflection a stranger I was beginning to recognize. Then maybe it's time I stopped showing up for places I was never truly invited to, I said, low and even. The words a vow to my sleep, Nathan said, his voice tinged with irritation, as if my pain was an inconvenience. No, I replied, turning to face him, my eyes steady. I'm finally seeing it for what it is. By the time sunlight filtered through the cheap motel curtains, I'd barely slept, my body exhausted but my mind still pacing the same mental hallway it had been walking for weeks. Questions with no answers, memories I hadn't meant to revisit. I turned over, careful not to wake Liam, his small form curled under the scratchy comforter, a reminder of why I kept fighting. Nathan had taken him down to the motel lobby for a waffle and juice, giving me a rare 45 minutes of quiet. I opened my laptop, not because I had anything urgent to do, but because clicking through job boards gave me the illusion of control, a distraction from the chaos. That's when I saw it. A forgotten folder buried inside an email chain from 2019, its subject line stark. Walton Estate for review. My breath hitched, a cold realization dawning. I clicked, and the will opened like a wound. In the first draft, my name sat clearly beside primary beneficiary, Grandpa's modest two-bedroom house in Salisbury, the one I used to mow the lawn for every summer, had been left to me, a quiet acknowledgement of my care. Then, just 7 months later, a second document appeared. Same header, same lawyer, but my name was gone, replaced by Cecilia's. I toggled back and forth, not blinking, the betrayal crystallizing with each word. I remembered that season like it was yesterday. How I'd offered to pay $4,000, 0 cents, for Grandpa's new oxygen equipment, my savings drained to keep him comfortable. He'd been so grateful, his frail hand squeezing mine. But just weeks after I wired the funds, Cecilia started dropping by his place more often, never empty-handed, always with pastries and her old college friend who happened to practice estate law. I didn't cry. Not this time. I forwarded the files to Rachel, a former coworker who'd gone to paralegal school, her sharp mind a resource I trusted. I backed them up on a flash drive and uploaded them to cloud storage, each click a step toward reclaiming my truth. When they take everything from you, what's left is clarity. And I finally had it. Later that day, we were invited to a family lunch at my Aunt Evelyn's, Nathan insisting we go. "It's just lunch," he said, his voice pleading as if one meal could mend years of fractures. "Maybe it'll help smooth things out." The moment we walked into the backyard, I knew smoothing wasn't on anyone's mind. Cecilia was already holding court near the grill, dressed like she was attending a fashion brunch rather than a casual get-together, her laughter loud and performative. Her daughter Emma unwrapped a box with a brand new silver iPad inside, the crowd oohing and awing as she held it up. The whole table clapped, their approval a chorus of exclusion. "It looks like the one we bought, Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling. I leaned forward, narrowing my eyes, my heart pounding as I spotted it. A faint Amazon tag from our order 3 months ago still stuck underneath, the one Nathan had signed for. I stood up, walked across the yard, took the iPad from Emma's hands gently, and peeled off the tag, holding it up for all to see. "This belongs to me," I said, my voice calm but unyielding. Silence fell, broken only by birds chirping in the oak tree overhead. Cecilia blinked, her smile barely twitching, but her eyes flashed with panic. "Oh, I thought it got delivered to our place by mistake," she said, her voice smooth but strained. "It must have been a long mistake," I said, turning and placing the tablet back in its box, my movements deliberate. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I didn't need to. The silence I left hanging in the air said enough, a quiet indictment of her theft. "I'm just taking back what's mine." "You're embarrassing yourself," Cecilia hissed, stepping closer, her voice low but venomous. "You think you're proving something? You're nothing without us." "I'm everything without you," I said, my voice steady, the words a liberation I hadn't known I needed. That evening, Liam and I shared fries in the motel room, his small fingers dipping them in ketchup as he chattered about his robot drawing, while Nathan scrolled through his phone, his silence a wall I no longer tried to breach. I didn't press him, didn't want another excuse about how families were complicated. Instead, I opened my laptop, the screen's glow a beacon in the dim room. This time, I didn't click on job listings. I opened a blank video editor, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve. "Hey," I said to the camera, my voice calm, steady, though my hands trembled slightly. If you're a mom who's carried things no one ever acknowledged, this one's for you. I spoke about the casserole, the porch, the iPad, each detail a thread in the tapestry of my erasure, my voice growing stronger with every word. After I uploaded that video, I didn't expect anything, not really. I told myself it was just a way to clear my head, to move through the ache, a small act of defiance against the silence that had defined me. But within hours, messages trickled in. Been carrying the same weight, sis. Thanks for saying it out loud. You're speaking for all of us moms who hold it together in silence. Somewhere between checking on Liam's snack crumbs and folding laundry on the motel bed, I realized I hadn't just hit upload. I'd lit a fuse, a quiet spark that was beginning to spread. The next morning, I walked to a small cafe near the library to draft my second video, the air fresh with the scent of rain-soaked pavement. Liam was with a friend for a few hours, and Nathan had errands, leaving me a rare moment of solitude. The cafe was quiet, its wooden tables worn but welcoming, a refuge from the storm brewing in my life. Then I heard, "Of course I used her money," she said, stirring cream into her coffee, oblivious to my presence. "She's too soft to fight back. Always has been." My hand didn't shake as I reached into my bag and tapped the voice memo app, my heart steady with purpose. I didn't turn around, didn't gasp or cry or throw my coffee. I just recorded 50 seconds of the truth, plain and unfiltered. Her words a confession I hadn't sought but now held like a weapon. That was enough. "You're playing a dangerous game, Elena," Nathan said later when I played the clip for him, his voice laced with unease. "This could ruin her." "She ruined herself," I replied, my tone calm but resolute. "I'm just letting the truth breathe. You're burning bridges you might need," he warned, his eyes searching mine for hesitation. "I'm building my own," I said, turning away, my resolve unshaken. Later that evening, Nathan and I arrived at a charity gala at the community center, a small event I'd RSVP'd for a month ago, even donating 4 boxes of canned food, my contribution a quiet act of giving despite my own struggles. It was the kind of event where people wore their nicest shoes and biggest smiles, a facade of unity that masked the fractures beneath. I wore charcoal gray, simple, cleaned my appearance a deliberate choice to blend in, not to provoke. We walked up to the check-in table, the air thick with the scent of lilies and candle wax. The woman holding the clipboard looked apologetic before she even spoke. "I'm so sorry, your name isn't here, but Cecilia Walton is listed as a platinum donor. Maybe she can confirm." My throat didn't tighten, my chest didn't burn. I just nodded once and handed her the bags, my composure unshaken. "Let her have the spotlight," I said quietly. I found better lighting. Cecilia, standing nearby, overheard, her smile faltering for a split second before she recovered, her voice syrupy. "Elena, you didn't need to come if you weren't invited. No need to make a fuss." "I'm not here for your spotlight, Cecilia," I said, my voice low but clear, drawing a few curious glances. "I'm here for the truth, and it's coming whether you like it or not." With that, I turned around, Nathan trailing behind me, his silence louder than any protest. Outside, the parking lot glistened from an earlier drizzle, the air fresh with the promise of change. I leaned against the car, unlocked my phone, and tapped the red arrow, uploading the audio clip in under a minute. By the time we pulled into the motel lot, the commentations had started, comments, people asking, "Is this real?" Others saying, "It's about time someone exposed her." Nathan looked over, his voice tense. "You're not worried this will blow up?" I met his gaze, calm and unyielding. "It's already blown up. I'm just making sure the fire's seen." For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel erased. I felt deliberate, my voice no longer a whisper but a flame. "You're starting a war," Nathan said as we entered the motel room, his tone a mix of fear and frustration. "No," I replied, closing the door behind us, my voice steady. "Ending one." That night, Liam fell asleep with one of the canned goods still in his hand, a tin of pears he refused to part with, his small act of defiance mirroring my own. I smiled, kissed his forehead, and opened my laptop, the screen's glow a beacon in the dim motel room. Tomorrow, I'd film another video, not of spite, but because I was done being background noise, my story now a call to others who'd been silenced. The sun poured through the east-facing windows of my new apartment in Frederick as I unfolded the last box labeled Liam Books. The space was modest, but ours, its cream walls a blank canvas for the life we were building, free from the shadows of my family's rejection. I arranged his favorite stories, dog-eared picture books, the one about the rocket ship, and his worn copy of Charlotte's Web. Liam was in the other room, humming to himself while coloring a spaceship, his joy a quiet anchor in our new reality. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was unpacking into borrowed space. This place belonged to us. I glanced at the corner of the screen where my YouTube dashboard pulsed. 82,147 subscribers, a number that felt like a quiet roar, proof that showing up for yourself can echo farther than years of being quiet for others. The phone rang, and I didn't need to look to know it was her. Margaret. I let it buzz until voicemail picked up, the silence a deliberate choice. A moment later, I opened the transcript. "We just didn't know. We thought you'd always be there." I stared at those words like they were a riddle I had finally solved. They didn't mean remorse, but expectation. A misplaced sense of permanence, as if my presence had always been an unspoken guarantee, like the porch light or the spare bedroom. "Always there?" I muttered, shaking my head, the irony bitter. They hadn't noticed when I was there, only when I dared to leave. Later that afternoon, I was sorting paperwork when my fingers brushed the edge of something familiar in the drawer. The envelope. The same one from the motel floor weeks ago, its paper softened at the edges, the crease down the middle more prominent now. I opened it, empty now, its $60.00 long spent on Liam's school supplies, but its weight heavier than ever. I stood there for a long while, not angry, not hurt, just aware. That envelope was the last thing I ever gave them. Not the money, not the years of transferred deposits or late-night pickups, but my silence, my willingness to hold my tongue in rooms that gladly swallowed it. I tucked it back in the drawer, wanting the reminder, a talisman of my refusal to return. That evening, Liam and I took our usual walk to the corner park, the autumn air fresh with new beginnings. He skipped ahead, stopping to poke at a patch of fallen leaves, his laughter a melody that drowned out the past. Then, as kids do, he asked something big like it was nothing. "Do you think they'll ever say sorry?" I didn't answer right away, looking up at the orange-streaked sky between the branches, the same sky that stretched over the house we left, over the courtroom, over every room where my voice had been minimized. "Maybe," I finally said, my voice gentle but firm. "But we're not waiting for it anymore, are we?" Liam nodded, as if that made perfect sense, and ran off to the swings, his joy unburdened by their absence. I sat on a bench nearby, letting the quiet settle over me, a peace I'd fought to claim. Back home, after his bedtime routine and one more rereading of Charlotte's Web, I sat at my desk, the apartment silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. I opened my laptop and began outlining the next series for my channel, titling it The Reclaim Series, Strong Starts for Silent Women. The words a promise to myself and others. I typed slowly, carefully, then saved the file. Across from me, the chair I'd taken from my parents' house, our chair, the one I'd fed Liam in when he was still all cheeks and giggles, stood solid, its worn wood a testament to our resilience. It no longer begged for a place at their table. It had one now, a real one. And the will. It sat in my inbox, unread for days. I didn't need to open it again. I hadn't inherited a house or a name or a title. I'd inherited myself. Sometimes justice isn't about what you take back. It's about what you refuse to carry anymore. As I closed my laptop, a final message from Cecilia popped up, her tone dripping with false contrition. "Elena, I saw your videos. Maybe we got carried away. Can we meet to clear the air?" I read it, my lips curling into a faint smile, not of forgiveness, but of freedom. I didn't reply, deleting the message with a single tap, knowing my silence was louder than any words I could send. Elena's journey from silent sacrifice to reclaimed strength unveils the pain of being erased by those closest to her, yet it shines with the courage to forge a new path. Her fight wasn't just for a seat. It was for her voice, sparked by a porch eviction and fueled by truths long buried. Many know the ache of being unseen, yet rise to reclaim their worth. If you've carried unacknowledged burdens or fought for your place, you're not alone. Share your story below or with a trusted friend. Your truth can light the way for others, building a community where empathy heals. What's your journey? Speak it. We're listening.